from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased. Joining me, Lillian Pierson. Lillian, the way I love to do it, I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So tell us a little bit more about, your journey, your experience, and what you are currently up to, and then we can start the exciting conversation from there. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your show, Mohammed. So I am a fractional CMO. I'm a marketing strategist and advisor, and in some cases, I'm working as a full fractional CMO, leading the marketing teams for B2B tech companies, mostly data and AI intensive companies. Over the last decade or so, I've supported the expansion of 10% of Fortune 100 companies, whilst educating 2 million learners on data science and AI. But that is through incredible partnerships that I've been very grateful and fortunate to have built with both LinkedIn Learning and Wiley's. So yeah, and so that's part of my journey, and that's also part of why most of my marketing experience has been with data science and AI companies, because I have a deep technical background. I'm also a licensed professional engineer. So
Wow. Thank you for being here with me on the show, Lillian, again. It's before I deep dive, with the multiple topics that we're going to discuss, like just out of curiosity, what, attracted you to this intersection of, the data, AI, and growth strategy? Like, what was like the initial spark, I would say, for this interest?
That was absolutely from the beginning. Even when I was working as a technical strategist, because I have 20 years of marketing experience, but it's always been from engineering and technology in these types of industries. But even when I was just getting started in data science and learning it, I very, very quickly saw how data and analytics, even basic expertise, is extraordinarily helpful in growth. And so I was able to grow. That's how I got like 700,000 followers online. So I spent a few years just dabbling, just looking at the analytics and doing, I guess, what they would call growth hacking, or a primitive way of doing growth marketing. And so, yeah, I'd say like now, absolutely all of my strategies, my growth strategies, they're growth marketing strategies. But that actually came from my background of both data science and marketing together. So, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I put myself on mute. So, yeah, that happens. And the podcast is very transparent in that. So don't worry about it. So the question, I know you have a new book. So tell me a little bit more about, the book, the title, and, what are the key insights? And then I'm going to deep dive a little bit more about each part of it.
All right. Thank you for asking. I love talking about. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So the book is called The Data and AI Imperative: Designing Strategies for Exponential Growth. It's by Wiley. But the whole underlying premise of this is like, well, there's two things I'm most excited about. One is protecting CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, protecting and helping them guide their decision making when it comes to technical strategies related to data and AI, and then also helping data professionals level up into a more strategic role. But the reason I'm super excited to get to share my framework and approach that I've built after the last 20 years working as a strategist in technology is that, well, I was around back in the day of Hadoop. I don't know if you're aware, there was a big hype-driven buying cycle around something called Hadoop, and a lot of business leaders they were sold technology that was just completely inappropriate. for the current state of their organization and what their business objectives were. It was just, and then it kind of made a stain on the whole big data thing. And so like now it's kind of a bad word. And I always felt like, gosh, if they had the framework, if they had the strategic approach, if the buyers had the strategic approach that they needed in order to make informed decisions for their organizations, that wouldn't have happened. They would have been known a lot more about like been protected from the marketing hype, really. So this book shares that, shares that approach. And then the other part is it's my coming out as publicly. I mean, I've been a CMO for years now, but it's kind of my public debut in terms of books as a growth marketing strategist. So there's a heavy emphasis on go to market and product market fit, growth marketing, AI and data driven growth marketing, as well as product. Yeah, these topics. And then we go into the technical strategy.
Cool. Now,
Yeah.
let's dive into these ones one by one. So I know, like you mentioned about like 5 signs that the AI strategy isn't ready to scale. So can you share some of these signs and how companies should address them?
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot to talk about with this. I would say from the perspective, particularly of our audience in this episode, I think CTOs can really relate to the tendency to get really excited about technology and kind of put the cart before the horse and forget to focus first on the business objective and then how the technology actually supports and furthers that business objective. So one of the biggest problems that the AI strategies or technical strategies in general face is that there's more focus on the technology and the technical strategy than there is on the business objective that needs to be supported by these technology systems, these products, programs, whatever you're building. They need to be super dialed in to the business mission, vision, and objectives. So if that's not happening, then there's a real risk of like lack of alignment and then low or no return on investment for the project overall. Yeah, so that's one of them, and I have 4 other points, like, plotted out, but
So if I want to just do a follow up on this one, so we're talking here about business outcomes, Lillian, and I think just adapting technology for the sake of adapting technology isn't going to take us anyway, and especially now with the age of AI. So we hear this a lot, like, okay, let's get this new cool toy, right, and put it in the organization and see what we can do with it. Like, so from mindset perspective, and I want you to get this from 2 perspectives. So how, because like you and me, we sit on both sides of the table. So we're like doing the technology consultancy at some stage, and you did it from growth perspective on marketing. I did it from sales perspective. Like, how do you think is the role also from the people who are bringing these techs in front of the decision makers? And by the way, they are not only going to the CTO and to CIO, they're going also to the business leaders as well and taking the technology. So do you think like also the messaging is being kind of exaggerated in front of these leaders? So they are forcing sometimes, CTOs, CIOs to go adapt technologies that they don't want. And maybe that also the tech executive, are they doing exactly what they should do to show, their counterparts from business perspective, hey guys, like this is what we should be really focusing on now, and this is what we have to do. So I just want to take your like point of view on this topic.
okay. So it's a great question. I wanna just seek clarification on one thing. When you say they are bringing messaging to the CTO or the CEO, who is they?
I mean, like the technology vendors, let's put it this way.
Okay, yeah, so that is that creates a lot of pressure on business decision makers because and especially if they're a venture backed because investors want to see like especially with the AI startups, they want to see like uptake with the latest and greatest. So that of course does create pressure. But the thing is that I don't think that with the right approach, I don't think that business decision makers need to like, even there's so many different flavors of the latest type of technology that even if one type doesn't fit your current state of the current state of your organization, doesn't mean that there's not a different quote unquote flavor that is very well suited for driving growth in the like next 90 days. And so it's like a matter of picking the right use case and the right technology stack that aligns with your current resources to drive that growth, and just basically de-risking the investment decisions. Because yeah, investors and the public, they want to see this adoption, of course, but also without having a strategic approach and a methodical approach, w- decision makers can really open themselves up and their companies up to tremendous amount of risks. So that was one
So
point. The other point, I lost it. I'm sorry. What was the other point you made? You asked
yeah,
about?
so we talked about the two-sided. So from one part, as technology companies and mainly startups, we need to do the growth that you just mentioned. But I meant from the other side of the table, like for the CIOs, the CTOs, like how they can remove the noise that their counterparts, which are
Oh,
like the business leaders, they might also be hearing from other companies, maybe CFOs, other companies,
okay.
so how they can, tell them no, like this is what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that makes total sense. And thank you for clarifying. So
Sure.
yeah, so CTOs, like, generally, and as should be, are cautious, are a lot of times slow to, especially in like places like the Middle East, they're slow to adopt new technologies and they're risk averse,
Sure.
and rightly so. So how I recommend approaching this is just, well, in my book, I share the STAR framework that I came up with many years ago. That's a 4-step method. So, okay, let's just make a hypothetical situation. So your CEO comes in and he's like, we need to be doing something. We need to develop some features that are generative AI features so that our marketing can be on par with our competitors here. And you're like, okay, yeah, but I don't know if this is necessarily appropriate for our our product, right? So what he's saying is he wants to add to his the CEO is saying is he wants, like the marketing to be able to like level up with the new fancy shiny object, generative AI, right? But the CTO has to say, okay, like let me survey and see what other, not just my industry, but in other industries, like what are people doing with generative AI? How could I adopt this in a way that's like really low risk, high reward, and is really appropriate to our current state, right? So you do surveying the industry, take stock of data resources, technologies, skill sets, and then based on an extensive assessment of current state and what's available within the company, as well as what's happening across the market and with depending on if you're building in-house or externally. I feel like I'm talking way too long. This is a big thing.
No.
So, okay, so imagine we're developing this and it's an external commercial feature, right? Features for a commercial product, right? So look, okay, what are the competitors doing and what are these features that they're saying is like shiny object, generative AI? Okay, so we take that into account along with our current state. What data resources do we have? What skill sets do we have available? What's our technology stack? How can we make best use of what we have so it's lowest risk, and in order to drive just a quick win, 90-day drive ROI in the first 90 days. And then I do everything in an experimental approach. So once you can validate that that works, you can start scaling it across your company. Or so just keep the risk really, really low. And as you grow, you can take bigger and bigger risks because you understand how this is going to work. You have a better understanding of what's going to work and what's not going to work. But just going in and being like, okay, I'm like what happened with Hadoop, like, okay, I'm gonna spend $10 million on Hadoop infrastructure because everyone else is doing it, when that wasn't the thing that was gonna move the needle in the short term. And then without the data that supported that this was actually gonna be like, there's gonna be adoption, it's gonna make a difference in the market, it's just like so much risk. So that's how I would always approach it. You, like, survey the industry, take stock of what you've got available, do a deep assessment of current state versus opportunity, and then based on a deep technical, like, develop a strategy, a technical assessment, and then make your recommendations based on data. Don't take too much, and yeah.
Right. Lilian, if I might ask you this, because, I remember at some stage we were hearing a lot about it, and I'm sure maybe it's still the case. And you have the better visibility because you've worked with a lot of companies in this space. So, what about data monetization as an area of focus also as well? So, how are you seeing companies leveraging this possibility of having but they have their data assets, right? So they have the data
Mhm.
and trying to you know figure out if they can, because you mentioned ROI now. So
Yeah.
what kind of perspective they should be looking at, so they can say, okay, we can really monetize the data that we have, instead of just buying expensive toys and putting them in the system, and then just wait for the ROI to happen by itself.
Yeah, of course. Data monetization is one of my favorite use cases. So, in fact, even though I'm coming out with a book that essentially is a technical strategy book for data and AI initiatives, the only type of strategies I would deliver anymore would be like our growth marketing strategies. The only exception to that would be data monetization strategies, because I see enough overlap between the technical and the marketing and the business end of things to say, like, okay, this makes sense to, like, keep rooted in this area. But in terms of examples, like, okay, this is the age of data monetization. The world, if you have quality data, that is, of course, high quality data. With everything with generative AI, I mean, increasingly so. If you have access to data, fresh data to keep feeding the LLMs, that's gonna be, like, worth a lot of money because of just the way privacy concerns people have and the way governments are locking down, basically on trying to lock down on data collection. I'm just trying to think of a good use case. One of my favorite case studies was SafeGraph, where they took basically they took them mobile. They did data partnership with mobile phone providers, and then they took that and they monetized it directly by selling that location data to retail vendors who are looking to make investments into retail outlets. Where do I develop my retail center? And that was a direct data monetization. It was backed by Peter Thiel and Ad Adrian or something, the founder. I mean, it was just always a brilliant model and it's done really, really well. But there's a lot of different ways you can monetize data. It just, I think, depends on what your resources you have and what the market demand is. So I think that would be something we'd need to look at, like, on a case by case basis. But the
Cool.
approach should still be the same. Still the STAR framework applies as much as it would in any other type of use case, actually.
Absolutely. Now, regarding, also the scaling, in the terms of, the system that they put in place, because I'm gonna talk about scale in another sense in few minutes later. So, how organization they can make sure, like, whatever strategies, you know, new initiatives they do, they are able to scale them in the future, and make sure that they will have the success that they are aiming for.
Yeah, so actually, what you're bringing to mind is when you're bringing this up is actually the difference between, like, a one-off data or AI strategy and then a complex strategy that's scaled across organizations where you've got multiple use cases that are integrated into an overarching data strategy or AI strategy. But how to scale it, so say, okay, say we say we are talking data strategy. Maybe it has to do with machine learning. Maybe it's got to do with generative AI and building applications, based off APIs, right? Doesn't really matter. You're going to have one use case, right? And you're going to choose the one use case. You're going to look for the lowest hanging fruit. Do what I always recommend, and in the book I show how to do this. Do a multi-criteria decision making assessment model to select what really vet it out. What is the lowest risk, highest reward use case where we can turn generate an ROI in the next 90 days. Okay, so this would be for less mature organization. You get that going and it's working. It's profitable. It's of getting the adoption is what it needs to be. Well, then you can continue. You can scale that now across different units. If you have taken into account the applicability of this use case across the business when you were in the planning phase, right? So once you get that in place, that's great. So you can operationalize it. Don't need to worry too much about that. You then work on the next use case. Do the same thing again, operationalize that. And then once you have 2, once you have 3, you need an overarching integrated strategy to be able to. So we're talking about the difference between the
Right.
short-term growth goals versus the long-term. For more mature organizations, they have many, many, many use cases. So they would need that more integrated approach to their strategy, to their technical strategy. But this is generally how you would start from 0 and scale to, all the way up to like Fortune 100 companies is this general framework, if you will, or methodology.
Great. Now, as I was telling you, Lillian, before we did the actual recording, so I like startups. And, one of the topics that is, always coming up, especially recently, is product led growth, which is known as PLG, because, there's always the PLG and SLG, which is like sales led growth. And now there's also the founder led growth also as well. This is a thing. So,
Okay, we gotta say though, founder-led growth is basically a personal brand. I'm all for it, and I'm happy to teach people and lead them on how to do founder-led growth, and I have been doing that for many years. But it is definitely, really the same. It's a rebranding of personal brand,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is okay. I have a personal brand. I have a big one, and it takes you a long way. To a certain point, it really helps you grow. But then at a certain point, then you need to become a media company to really get that next level. But anyway, what you're saying?
So let's go back to the PLG, so product led growth. So, in a nutshell, why is it still like the hot topic these days? And, with the hype of the AI and generative AI, so what are like some of the strategies that you think they are working well in driving user acquisition, retention, and of course, avoiding churn also as well?
Gosh, I mean, so the funny thing is about product-led growth is it's not it might be popular. In fact, some of my friends in the Valley are saying, like, it's not popular anymore. That's been replaced by AI and marketing, and so it's like the new buzzword. I don't know about that, but I do know that PLG is not new, and that, like, okay, if you think about, like, in my book, right? So I'm trying to just illustrate. There's a lot of in the
Right.
first part of the book, there's illustrations of, like, what this. So if you think about it, a recommendation engine in a product marketplace. That would be a PLG. That would be serving the PLG function because it's increasing engagement, it's increasing revenue. If its product recommendation engine really satisfies the use of if you're trying to illustrate machine learning or complex AI in a product environment to accelerate growth. Now, there are newer ways that startups are using generative AI, or they're exploring the use of generative AI to drive product-led growth. So in my book, I cover a startup that is basically they're building generative AI clusters or generative AI layers. One of the generative AI layers works on the strategy level. So it segments the data and it segments personas based on their behavior with the product, with the website integrated approach to like data collection and segmentation so that they can identify even unique trends that that even trained specialists wouldn't be able to see. Like, so it's using the reasoning engine of a LLM to identify segments that you might not even know about. It auto identifies them. And then it puts a layer of human intervention to say, okay, like, do you agree with, like, does the marketing manager or whatever, they agree with this segmentation? Is this legitimate? Right. So then the next layer of the product is, okay, we've identified that these are segments based on behavior. So this one's likely to churn. This one is ready to buy and just needs like maybe a promotion or something like that. So like can understand their intent and then can use generative AI on the next layer to then generate those marketing messages, or at least the drafts of them for each of the segments in real time. So this doesn't happen like on a batch basis. This happens
Mhm.
on like a real time basis. So the holdup is where the human intervention comes in and says, okay, like, yes, there's a safety check. I agree. And then proceed. So it allows companies to really like drive product led growth at scale in real time using the reasoning engine of that support LLMs. If that is hopefully clear. I know we're kind of getting into like the weeds a bit, but I think this is a CTO show, so you guys probably are on track with what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now the question, Lilian, for you from a PLG perspective. So when we talk from marketing side of it, right? So
Okay, yeah.
where we do the most of the activities, so is it like the aim for us to lead with the product, but you know I just shared something 2 days back or maybe yesterday. What I'm seeing recently is we build a product, whatever the product is, and then we start to talk about the bells and whistles of this product without understanding,
Mhm.
in my opinion, the pain point of the end user, or the person or the company they're gonna buy this product. And then we keep pumping features and
That's every founder. Every builder. It's like if it's your product, it's hard not to do that. But as a CMO, like that's one of the things I really help companies with is I think like I'm an advocate for the consumer. I'm thinking like them, kind of pushing against the tendency. It's so natural. I've built products and that's just what people do when you're the builder. But sorry, I didn't let you get to the point. I'm just passionate about this.
no, I want you to go through this, Lilian, like what they should avoid,
Oh,
because you just mentioned that
yeah. I
exactly.
mean, it happens.
This is where I wanted to go, so you just took the the rest of the question out
Okay.
yourself.
Okay. I mean, because it's unavoidable. It's like that is why people hire CMOs. That is why they have this other like executive perspective on the offer suite really. But so I specialize in marketing strategy, growth marketing strategy that ladders up to product led growth.
Mhm.
So more from a marketing perspective, I mean, the whole appeal is that, you can sell $20 per month product to people, you can run ads all day, every day. And once you've validated product market fit and you've validated your, I don't, it, the way I do it is I make landing pages, or I help teams build landing pages that are not landing pages. They're actually sales pages. Like they punch hard with conversions, because I think landing pages are pretty weak and we need higher conversion rates in order to really validate. But once you get that set up, it's like you could do that all day, every day till the cows come home, and you don't really need to worry too much about the self-led function, right? So that's the kind of marketing that I love focusing on, because I love community-led. I love thinking from the buyer's perspective, from like I just love doing this type of thing as a marketer. But you're asking from it sounds like a bit like you're asking from the founder's perspective, a way of like how do we get out of that kind of natural tendency? Is that what you're saying? Or like a product, so there's the marketing that ladders up to product-led growth, and then there's actually the the levers within the product that
Mhm.
drive retention, that drive referral. And a lot of those, in all honesty, like I'm a marketing person, but there's a product strategy. I've got a partner and he's an incredible product strategist from CNN. Like and we work together. So for like market validation and all of this, it's like you got the product end of your product that it needs to be rock solid, right? But a lot of product led growth is driven by marketing. And so like me maybe you automate portions of that marketing, but the psychology and the underlying dynamic is the same. So like for referrals and for retention is like building features that people want to use, and like asking asking, getting collecting feedback and automatically, like building the feedback loops, getting that feedback and like really, really listening to it. And what can we take away from our product instead of what we can add to it? Because that's really what people want. They want to do as little as humanly possible to get the transformation they're after. They do not want more features. They want less features that are more powerful. And so like feedback really helps in doing that. And referrals is like clearly to me, referrals, you can automate it through product-led growth, but that's definitely a marketing function. So it's odd to be a marketing person in this space because s- you know, product people also they're like, "Oh, I'm a product person, so this is my domain." And I'm like, "Yeah, but there's a lot of marketing involved in this." And then we have go to market also, where it's like there's the salespeople that are like, "Well, I'm doing GTM," and then there's marketing person, "Well, I'm doing GTM." It's kind of like there's layers where we're all kind of operating, just bringing our own expertise and talents, and it's a fusion area, and product led growth is one of those areas.
I agree with you, Lilian. Now, before I ask you the follow-up question, it's a team game, right? So you need a solid product, and then you need to have
Yes.
the talent of a marketing genius to lay the way down for the salespeople to go and do the scoring, which is actually getting the deals in. I'm focusing a little bit more on
Mhm.
B2B, honestly, Lilian, if you get what I mean. Now,
You're talking about enterprise. I think you're talking about enterprise, like enter
exactly.
yeah, enterprise sales, marketing that ladders up to enterprise sales.
Now, but what also I figured out recently, because there are some playbooks out there, and these
Mhm.
playbooks to me looks a little bit outdated. So everyone at some stage looking doing the same thing, especially when it comes to outbound, efforts.
Yeah.
What I've seen working recently, and I want to take your opinion on this, and maybe this would be an advice for the fellow founders and to even scale up the people who reach this product market fit and know they want to scale. There are like a new generation of getting things. Of course, ads I believe still are there, but I started to see people relying, one, on something you mentioned previously about the our personal brand. The second thing is
Mhm.
also relying on new ways of utilizing, let's call them technology influencers, like not the influencers in the sense of a Instagram and TikTok, but people who are like kind of authority in the industry they are in. So they come, they blog about them, they push videos about them. I noticed like this is also something which is working. So tell
Wait,
me,
can
or
I
tell,
ask you
tell
something though?
yeah,
As
please.
someone, because you have a successful podcast, so if you haven't, because I was getting brand deals out, I actually made a definitive choice, and I was making a lot of money, thousands of dollars per hour with brand deals with really, really big technology companies, Fortune Fortune 10, Fortune 100 companies, a lot of them. And I definitively said, "This is not what I wanna do anymore," but I am surprised that you're asking this because you have a media company. You have a media company. You have built this podcast, and so I'm just curious, like, you about sponsors and, like, they haven't come to you. You're acting like it's some foreign thing, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" Because I would just see you as a perfect candidate for getting brand deals like this with the work you've been doing.
Oh, good. Thank you for asking, because I decided to make the podcast as a non-profit organization.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that
but
keeps
but
the
I do.
bias out.
But yeah, but speaking engagements, please come. I'm more than happy to join. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking is fun, and yeah, I used to do speaking all over the world. I remember one of the biggest it was like yeah, it was a really great deal. They flew me and my family to Istanbul, first class and I had to speak for 5 minutes. It paid really well. I was like, "This isn't too bad," but after a few years of deals like this after because I have a small children, it's like it's
Hmm.
not really much fun. I'd rather just stay on our little island, and I actually just found worked on rebuilt my business from scratch, basically. Pivoted.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay,
regarding
what
what I
was your
was
question?
asking
Yeah,
you,
that stuff is big. You were asking founder-led growth and asking about use of influencers or thought leaders in order to get in front of the right audience, and it's super wise to do that. In fact, with partner, I mean, you could call it elite. I actually put thought leaders or influencers in the category of partnerships, but there are even a lot smarter ways to do partnerships. So I'm a big fan. I've done mentorship with a guy, some of your listeners might know him, but Scott Oldford. Really have a profound respect for Scott Oldford as a marketer and as a person. And I took one of his trainings on partnerships, and I didn't buy the full $5,000 course. I kind of wish I had, but he shared some of the partnership deals that he was doing, and it was like so smart. Like, okay, think about someone a founder who's built a SaaS product that he doesn't know how to monetize, or she doesn't know how to monetize. She's allowing like ads, like Google ads, just random Google ads to run there in order to monetize something because they don't know how to
mm-hmm.
monetize their product. But they're getting a lot of traffic, and you need that traffic, right? So because influencers are gonna, if you can do a micro influencer strategy, then sure, fine. I build those, like do it all day, every day. But it's also kind of saturated, and people know the deal, and it's like, but people aren't super aware of, like, say you find a SaaS product and it's free and there's a lot of traffic going there, and it's your target audience, and you just contact the founder and be like, "Yo, I'll pay you like $500 a month. Just put my banner here."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, for them, it seems like a lot of money because they're not marketing people. They don't have when you have money just flying at you from every direction, the prices go out through the roof. You're like, "I don't wanna do another brand deal." I was there. And but they're not in that position. They're like, "I'm looking to monetize," and people aren't seeing that opportunity. So that's one thing that I haven't explored actually with my own, like, I haven't been able had the experience of executing and, like, leading a team to, like, monetize in that way or to drive traffic in that way, but I'm sure because I learned it from Scott Olford that is super powerful, and there's a lot of opportunity there because everyone knows about influencers, micro influencers. That's not new. And founder-led growth is like, that's almost like just kind of like you got to have that. It's kind of like you need to drink milk or you need calcium. It's one of those things you just have to have. You can't get around it. But these other more like really like discrete ways of like in high reward, low risk ways of driving traffic, targeted traffic. I love it.
Yeah. So we're almost done, Lillian. So bear with
Yeah.
me. Just I have like
I
two
love that
more
we got to
questions.
talk so much about marketing.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's my favorite topic also as well. So how do you see, we talked about Gen AI and AI in general, but if you want to imagine, some of the functions that a CMO would usually do, right?
Mhm.
So with the rise
Oh,
of
wow.
AI, so how, the responsibilities, the tasks, the planning is being affected by, the generative AI in particular.
Well, you can get so much. I mean, there are a few things going on. First of all, even as a single person, just using LLMs from a research perspective and from the reasoning perspective, one person could get so much more built and like more quickly, more efficiently. Like if you build a strategy without an LLM helping you with the research and stuff, it's just going to take 10 times as long. Okay, now I would not say, okay, if you're not a marketing expert, do not try and use LLMs to build a strategy because you're not gonna be able to see the big glaring problems that the huge potholes that you're gonna fall into if you don't know actually have the underlying expertise. And I think it's like that with any other field where LLMs are applicable, right? But that's as a single person. I'm actually I'm a go-to-market partner with an organization called Ready AI, and they've built wow, so powerful. Yeah, if you have start they have built a strategy development engine using Clay,
Hmm.
and you see the back end of this thing, and it's like, I really never saw anything like this before. But then I understood when because Damien worked on with me on a target market selection, and he's got an MBA, and like what he came back was like 10 reports, like hundreds of reports. He's like, well, these recommendations are based on hundreds of reports. 'Cause I'm like, I want a few links. I want to see like the data. And he like, oh, well, there's hundreds of reports. So I'll just pick like the top 10. And I'm like, how did he get 100? Because he in one day for not that much money. And I'm like, how did he do that? And then I understood he was using Clay. Once I got in with Ready AI and saw what they had built, he was using Clay. And it's like, no, you're not going to go. A person who doesn't know the ins and outs of go to market should not go in and try to build their own strategy doing something like that, because you're not really, it's risky. You're not going to see. But like executives, people who do have that deep background, like you, like me, like Damien, it's like the amount, the potential that you of how much more you can grow, how it's like, okay, you have 100% of your capacity, right? And then you just amplify that by by 10 or by 100, because you've got your reasoning capacity along with LLM's reasoning engine, along with LLM's like layers and layers of research capacity with LLMs, all operationalized in a plug and play solution. I mean, it's unfreaking believable, but I'm still not at all worried. I just see that like AI is just, this is the future. And that doesn't mean there isn't like, you still need to know what you're doing. You still need people that really know what they're doing. So it's pretty cool.
Good. So, Lilian, I know, like, we discussed a lot of things today, but and please, like, do it from marketing/AI perspective. If you want to leave the audience today with, like, kind of call it final word of wisdom, call it, something as a call to action from your side, related to all what we discussed today. Especially, I want you to be talking to fellow founders, fellow entrepreneurs. So what would be, your one piece of advice?
My one piece of advice to fellow founders and entrepreneurs would be to adopt a strategic approach to all of your activities. So when we're in our business, it's very easy to see the shiny objects and to get into having your team throw spaghetti at the wall and see if something sticks. That's the natural tendency. But right now is a time in I don't want to use the word unprecedented, but there's never been a time like this, right? So we have extraordinary growth potential at our fingertips. There are a lot of really smart people out there that know how to leverage that, and they're getting their hockey stick growth, right? And so it's a matter of like leveraging technology, leveraging your expertise, the expertise of your team, and really like making sure that whatever you invest your energy, your time, your money into, that it's going to be stuff that is going to really move the needle, because there isn't a time to mess around. And especially if you're in the AI startup, AI innovation space, you really, really need to work on like, I don't want to preach, but like I see this huge bubble coming. I think everyone does. So it's like,
Mhm.
what's the moat here? How are we defensible, especially with the AI wrapper startups? How is this defensible? We talked about Cast Magic earlier. Cast Magic is a wrapper startup, but I think they're defensible. I think what they built is pretty freaking cool, because it's like, yeah, it's built through APIs. They didn't build their own LLM or anything, which they shouldn't have, but it's specific enough that it's unique enough that someone can't just come in and like replicate what they built overnight. Maybe they could. What I'm saying is you want to like, especially if you're building data and AI startups, generative AI startups, really, really focus on the target market selection and product strategy to differentiate and build that moat, because it's just crazy. I don't think we have any idea what's coming next, even in the next 5 years.
I can't stress, enough the last word you said. Like, I remember when I started the podcast, I used to ask, and Gen AI was very new at that time. So I still was asking, okay, like, what are your expectations for the coming, 5, 10 years? And now I don't ask this question anymore, because, with Gen AI and, all what's happening around us. So barely I can predict maybe 6 months to 1 year from now, not more. So to your point, Lilian. Lilian, final thing, where people can, get the book, get in touch, and
Oh, thanks.
yeah. So,
Oh, definitely. So the book comes out and on January 5th. It'll hit the shelves all over the world. It's from Singapore to San Francisco. Data and AI Imperative Designing Strategies for Exponential Growth. And that is by Wiley. And then other than that, I'm on LinkedIn, Lillian Pierson, and my website is data-mania.com. And yeah, I'm always open to just having conversations with cool founders and trying to see where I can help. So I'm, open to conversations, love networking, getting to know people, and I really hope that you and I can actually develop and get to build a working relationship over time because I've really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for having me on.
oh, it was my pleasure, Lilian. And for the audience, you don't have to go and search. You will find, all the links in the show notes. And I will make sure also down in the description on YouTube also as well. Lilian, I really myself enjoyed because for me, every episode I record with someone like yourself who has this, you know, long years of experience and deep knowledge in their field. So I learned a lot. So for me
Thank you,
also,
Mohammed.
yeah. So it's also like a great lesson for me, a masterclass from you also to the audience and to myself, of course. And as I say always, thank you, for sharing all the insights. And to the audience, if you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you like it, please give us a thumb up, share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming back, thank you for doing so. Keep sending me your feedbacks, your suggestions, anything you want to ask about the show, you want to, forward a question to one of the guests, feel free to do that. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.